Hello and welcome to episode number 25, 24 of Life.EV, a podcast that dives into exploring values. I'm your host, Ajit Panicker, and I lead an air conditioning company, Nova, and Pure Blue, a tech startup in the air conditioning domain. Every Saturday at 11 a.m., we get into conversations that go beyond business growth, focusing on the values that fuel it. Let's embark on a journey to uncover our true purpose and how we can grow by enriching our lives. Welcome to Life.EV, where we explore values in life and business. And as every week, I've got Vivek Asrani with me. Hi, Vivek. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Ajit. How are you?
Awesome. Doing good. To our viewers, Vivek Asrani is the driving force behind Kamo Fastener Company, a trailblazing company in the industrial fastener sector. What sets Vivek apart is his deep engagement with the exploration of values. It's been almost 4 years he has dedicatedly penned his reflections on this topic every week. These insightful thoughts are accessible on his website, vivekasrani.com. Well, additionally, Vivek has authored the book One Day at a Time, Reflections from Times of Silence, which further delves into his journey and insights. This thought-provoking read is available on Amazon or his website, offering readers a chance to engage with his profound understanding of values and their role in both personal and professional lives. In today's episode of Life.EV, we discuss handling criticism. Vivek, over to you. Let's hear your reflections on this.
So, Ajit, the word criticism in itself gives a kind of a negative connotation. And if we really take a step back and look at it quite objectively, criticism actually is nothing but feedback that somebody is giving us on our thoughts and our behavior. Uh, Chances are that they see something in us which we may have overlooked. Chances are that they have a perspective which we don't. The challenge with criticism is that we take it personally rather than taking it objectively. And we do that because when you criticize me, the first thing that probably happens is that my ego gets hurt. And the moment my ego is triggered, it kind of, unleashes a flurry of emotions. And in that emotional upheaval, my objectivity to listen to what you're saying gets lost, and my focus probably is on who's saying it. How can you talk to me like this? How can you talk to me like this? How dare you say something like this? How unfair this is. And all the emotional baggage which I might be having within kind of initially surfaces. So I think the first part of criticism is to understand that criticism is nothing but feedback which somebody is giving us. So that's one. Second is when there is a feedback which doesn't align with the way we are, it doesn't necessarily always mean that it is negative. It only means that it is different. And therefore, when we distinguish between taking it personally and being objective, we're able to then distinguish that, look, you're saying something which is different than the way I have been looking at it. Therefore, let me first reflect on it before responding whether I agree, disagree, and what I should do with it. So that's why I started off by saying that unfortunately, the word criticism in itself gives a negative connotation, and it need not be. In my reflection, I have really spoken about four questions we need to ask ourselves when we are faced with, well, I'm still going to use the word criticism in this podcast of ours, when someone criticizes us. The first question is, have others told me the same thing? Because if we are hearing the same thing repeatedly from different people, and then normally criticism comes from, well, partly from people who are, uh, who have an agenda that is different from ours. But a lot of times, when this kind of criticism comes from people who truly care for us, and if there are enough people around us who are telling us the same thing, then chances are, Ajit, that we have missed out something about ourselves which the world can see, but we cannot see. The second question we need to ask ourselves is, can it be true? The immediate reaction to criticism very often is to become defensive. But instead of becoming defensive, if we leave ourselves open to reflecting on it, there's a large or a high chance that we might actually say that, is this really true? Why am I defending myself on this? Why am I not actually leaving the space open to saying that maybe this is true? So that's the second question we got to ask ourselves. So the first question is, have others told me the same thing? Second is, could it be true? The third is, why should I change? Now, herein lies, you know, the the feeling within, where we say that, uh, are we inflexible, or do we have the fluidity in us that only we can answer for ourselves? So when someone is criticizing me on something, and saying that, look, you're always doing this, or you never do this, and saying, yeah, but why should I change? I mean, that's the way I am. So maybe there is a case where we say, listen, why don't I just take a step back and understand this question and say, why, maybe I need to change on this. So it tests our flexibility. And the fourth question is it my conviction, or is it my stubbornness? Very often when we still hold our ground, and I'm not for a moment saying that every criticism or feedback we get should change us. There are times when, after listening to it, we may come to the conclusion, okay, no, I'm fine the way I am, or I still hold my own thought or behavior on this. But we must ask ourselves that question, that is it my stubbornness, or is it my conviction? So criticism tests our conviction. So have others told me the same thing? Can it be true? Why should I change? And is it really my stubbornness or my uh, conviction? So that is, my test of handling feedback or criticism when it comes my way.
Awesome. This also, in your reflection, you spoke about conviction and stubbornness. I'm quite keen that you elaborate on these two factors when it comes to handling criticism: conviction and stubbornness.
So, Ajit, there is one part of our thinking which only we are aware of, which only we kind of sense, and we are not able to sometimes explain it as clearly to the outside world. And very often, people around us are just not able to see it the way we are seeing it, or feel it the way we are feeling it, right? I'll give you two examples of my personal life. I remember in college, and I was part of this youth festival called Malhar, and we were running this program called Open House, which I was coordinating for the first time. And there was a concept called musical housey, which I'd heard, but it had never ever been played before, uh, at least in colleges, and I'd never seen it before, but I'd only heard the concept. And when I heard the concept, I loved it. So the concept was that, like we play housey with numbers. Here you would play 15 seconds of a song, and your ticket would not be a ticket of 15 numbers, but would be 12 or 15 songs, and you scratch off the songs as they play. So for about a month, I asked about 20 or 30 people, friends and people I would meet, hey, listen, supposing we did this game, right, called Musical Housey, what do you think? And I kid you not, I think 29 out of 30 said bad idea. Bad idea. Maybe one or two said, well, I mean, whatever, could work, we don't know. But something inside me told me that no, this is a great idea. Okay, I could probably visualize it in my mind's eye. There was some conviction. We went ahead with that. So I had a feedback of 29 out of 30 people saying don't do it, and we did it, and it turned out to be one of the most popular uh, events of open house over those 2 days, and it went on to become one of the most popular events, and a lot of other colleges reached out saying, listen, can we have this concept from you? That was one. The second is, when I was doing the largest investment of my life in terms of putting up a new factory 10 years ago. It was way beyond uh, what we needed. It was way beyond our budget. It was a huge stretch. And I ran it through 3, 4 people, and except for dad, who told me, like, if you think it's a good idea, just do it. 3, 4 of the closest people whom I normally reach out to, they all said, no, don't do it. It's Why are you doing it? It's not necessary, and for all the right reasons. But there was something in me which just felt that it was the right thing to do. So, in the face of advice that please don't do it, I went ahead and did it. Not because I wanted to prove a point. That would have been stubbornness. I was just following a lot of inner uh, conviction at that point. But I was getting led into this. So I think we need to be tuned in within to differentiate between conviction and stubbornness. If we operate from ego, it will be our stubbornness. If we are truly being guided, it'll be our conviction. And very often we will find that it's very easy to change our mind within when we are open to guidance, because when the ego goes away, the right answer will emerge. So that's how I handle this conflict between conviction and stubbornness sometimes. But you must
Thank
have
you.
had, I'm sure you must have had situations where one constituency is saying do this and somebody else is saying don't do it, and you're a little torn between this. And I mean, I don't know, how does it work for you?
Well, I'll tell you, I kind of used it to my advantage. Both of them, both conviction and stubbornness. You know, it's a traditional business, right? And I always, over a period of time, kind of felt that it's not scalable. It's profitable, but it's not scalable. So I wanted to do something completely different in the technology space, but within the whole industry. So I took the idea, go to the stakeholders of the existing business and everybody, and I said that, listen, this is what I want to do. The answer was, oh no, you can't do it. So what I did is I started becoming very stubborn. I said, no, look through this, see this. You know, this is how it's possible. This is how. Now, what happens is when you're being stubborn in such cases is the opposite side gets also a little agitated. But in the whole process, they will actually pick out all the holes that are there in your plan. All right. And if you're patient to make notes of these things, and that's exactly what I did. I pushed people hard. I was stubborn. They really thought that this guy is okay. You do what you want. You know, you just can't. You don't know. But honestly, I push people to pick up those holes. It helped me pivot my business plan, pick up a better idea, and then used conviction, because every time I was questioned, I was just getting convinced that this is a great idea. I mean, we should do it. So I kind of used that whole stubbornness and conviction to my advantage. And I feel like how you said, no, it's at one point of time, it's that ego. You know, even though you're being stubborn, at the back of your mind, you need to know the intent of what you're being stubborn is to extract the maximum out of it. And at no point that stubbornness can come out of ego saying that I'm trying to prove a point. No, I'm not trying to prove a point.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and I guess at the end of the day, you got to go eventually with your conviction. I mean, that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, right?
yeah.
And
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 Ajit, I mean, sorry, just to add to that, from what you said, it just triggered this one thought that stubbornness is always directed to the outside. Conviction flows from the inside. You know, so like you
amazing,
said, we're not proving a point to somebody.
correct. Yeah, but Vivek, at times this we are talking about the receiving end. Now, there are times when we are also at the other side, which is we land up in a situation where we have to give a criticism. You put into a situation where you have to criticize. Now, from that perspective, I want you to give your thoughts on about how do we make this criticism constructive and destructive. These are the two types of criticism that can happen. So when you choose to give criticism, how do you make sure that it's constructive and not destructive? What are your thoughts on that?
So the first thing, Ajit, in my head at least, is I move away from saying that I have to give you constructive criticism. My language internally is that I have to give you some feedback. That's one. Second is, why am I giving you that feedback? If I'm giving you feedback to score a point, then my motivation is very different. Then I'm trying to tell you how better I am than you, or I'm trying to pull you down and tell you how good you aren't. But that, if that is my motivation, then of course the game is lost. In my head, it's lost there. But if my motivation is to say, listen, I need to give you feedback to help you to grow and develop, because I myself have been a recipient of feedback and criticism which has helped me. So then my whole attitude towards that conversation changes. The third thing is, of course, I have made this mistake n number of times, mainly in the workplace. I have dropped my guard. I have not been mindful. I'll be very honest about it. But the rule is appreciate and praise in public, criticize in private. Because obviously, when you are giving somebody negative feedback or a strong feedback which is not favorable, saying it in front of their peers or others in the team is is the worst thing you can do. And I have been guilty of doing that. I'll be, honest with you. And I think this also, sometimes as owner managers, we forget that we may be meaning well, and later on we justify to say, listen, don't take it to heart, I didn't mean it, and it was, all about, uh, we were discussing that issue, and all of that. But the fact is that, people who work with us, for them, they're spending the best years of their life and the best time of the day with us at the workplace. So there is a certain level of respect which, they would also like. uh, and for them, a lot of their happiness quotient comes not only from the salaries and the economic value that they derive from the jobs, but also the way they are treated. And to speak to somebody in front of others, that you may be right in the facts and what you're saying, but so that, if you ask me, Ajit, is that one rule, that criticize in private but appreciate in public.
Amazing. On this also, in your reflection, you had said that, that not everything negative that someone hurls at you is a stone that hurts you. It
Hmm.
could be a building block to our lives. What are your thoughts on this? What got you to write that? That's a very interesting thing. It's not a stone that hurts you. It could be a building block to our lives.
It was very similar to, your own sharing of the stubbornness, where you actually asked people to pick holes in your plans. So they were hurling stones at you, but you said, no, these are building blocks and it's shaping my thinking around my own plan. So it's very similar. See, when someone is taking the trouble of actually hurling something at me and throwing something at me, it's coming from wherever it's coming from. One is, it could be out of deep care and concern, in which case, let me take that, learn from it, use it to my advantage. Okay. Uh, I remember, this one friend of mine, and I was in college, and after open house, again, I go back to that same example, and it was a highly successful program. And a week after that, we were in college, and he pulled me aside and he said, Vivek, just be careful of one thing. Yes, everyone acknowledges and saw that, you and the team did a great job, but you're getting a little carried away with that success and that attention that you're getting. So obviously, my body language, maybe the way I was talking, the way I was walking, and listen, I was all of 18 in any case, so still not as mature. But that helped me. That from then on, and I'm not saying that I've not made this mistake, but I've just been so mindful of just my, the way I conduct myself, especially when things are going right. The other is, I remember early days in our business, I had a dealer in Delhi who literally kind of, threw that packet of staples across the table and said, listen, your packaging is all crap. You guys are selling this in white boxes. You don't have this in place. You don't have this in place. जब भी आपका पैकेजिंग और सब तैयार है ना, तभी आप हमारे पास आओ, right? And he was absolutely right. It hurt. What he said hurt, and the way he said it hurt. It hurt because I wasn't getting his business, and the way he said it hurt. But I came back, and over the next 2 years, we really worked very hard on our packaging and presentation, which made a world of a difference to us. So I think the attitude with which we receive something changes, whether it's a stone that hurts or a building block that builds.
Amazing. Yeah. Super discussion today. Well, that's the time that we have today. We'd love to hear from you guys. Join the dialogue on our social media platforms. Share your questions, your learnings, and the insights you gained from this episode. It's through these shared experiences and perspective that we all grow and learn. So don't hesitate to reach out and contribute to this ongoing conversation. That's it we have for today. Join us again next week for another enriching episode of Life.EV. where we continue our exploration into the world of exploring values in our lives. Thank you, Vivek, for your valuable contributions as usual every week. And we're looking forward to diving deeper into these critical discussions in our next session. See you next week, where we will unravel more insights and perspectives that shape our ethical compass. Thank you for listening, and remember to reach out to your friends and get a conversation going on life exploring values. Well, Vivek, thank you very much. The next episode is a milestone. It's going to be our 25th episode, 25 weeks in a row. See
Wow.
you next week.
Look forward to it, Ajit. Thanks. Take care. Bye.
See you. Bye bye.